Now that you understand the basic structure of the Ansible playbooks, together we are going to create a playbook in Ansible and understand how to run it. Let's switch to our terminal window and list the contents of this current directory. We will execute ls. Here you can see this sample.yaml file is located in this directory. This is an Ansible playbook. We have already created this playbook as a sample, and now we will open it and go through it step by step. We will execute vi sample.yaml to open it with our vi editor. And as you can see, it is a pretty simple Ansible playbook. The playbook starts with 3 hyphens, which mark the beginning of this document. Next, we see the hosts section, where we define the target selection. Here we specify a particular host or host group. Here in this example, we have specified a target host group, which is our demo hosts host group. If you recall, we had configured both our test nodes, node 01 and node 02, under this host group. Next, we have the variables section, which has a variable called package1. The value assigned to this package is nginx. If we wanted to, we could define another variable here, say package2, and let's say we assign it a value of wget. Then under the task section, you can see we start a list, as denoted by this hyphen. Here we are defining all the tasks which are a part of this playbook. Since it is a list, it starts with a hyphen, and it will have a name. So our task list is called Installing Package Nginx. Next, we specify the name of the module which will run as part of this task. So you can relate to this task now. It is very similar to writing an ad hoc command on the command line. Here we are using the apt module, and for the arguments, which is generally passed via the -m input argument, we are specifying those arguments here in the value. When you define these Ansible tasks with these modules, you may need to check out the documentation for the module you are using. It is impossible to remember the exact usage and arguments of each and every module. Even if you remember the details of the most frequently used modules, it is always better to check what arguments the module is expecting, what are the acceptable valid values, etc. So in this case, our apt module expects the pkg, which is the package name. In our case, we want to install nginx. The state parameter indicates the desired package state. Here the value is set to installed, which signifies that we want to install this package. And update_cache is true, which runs the equivalent of apt-get update before the operation. This can be run as part of the package installation or as a separate step. And lastly, we are using the become directive. With this become directive, Ansible allows you to become another user, different from the user that logged into the machine, remote user. Let's quit our VI editor without saving this file and have a quick look at the Ansible documentation for the apt package. Here is the documentation. As the name suggests, this module manages the apt packages. It shows the list of the parameters that the apt package accepts. If we review the list of parameters, here we have a parameter called state. This parameter indicates the desired package state, and you can see it accepts these valid values. We can select any of these choices and default is present. If we want to uninstall something, we can pick the value of absent. Update cache runs the equivalent of running apt-get update. So before installing any of the packages in Ubuntu, we usually run apt-get update to make sure all the dependencies and packages are up to date. We can use this option to the same while running our Ansible commands. By default it is set to false, but we can change it to true as we did in our sample playbook. And of course, there is the important parameter, name, which is the name of the package. Let's get back to our playbook. We will execute vi-sample.yaml. Here is the name of the package. Here we are using an alias for the parameter called name. Either one will work fine. We are currently trying to install Nginx package via this playbook. We are going to add one more package and we will name it package 2. We will assign a value of wget to it. For this, we will create another task, and this task will also be a list. Hence, we will prefix it with a hyphen. Provide it a name, installing wget. Then we will specify the apt module, along with the other input arguments needed by the apt module. The first argument is the name of the package. This time we will use name for this input argument. Furthermore, rather than hard-coding the name of the second package, we will use a variable name here. The way to use a variable value is to open double curly brackets and then specify the variable name and then close the double curly brackets. Now at runtime, this variable will be replaced with the value of the variable specified above. Next, let's specify the other input arguments. State equals installed. Update_cache equals true. We are using one more directive here, which is become. This is called the elevating privilege. If you remember in our inventory file, we configured our Ubuntu user to log into the remote host, but the Ubuntu user doesn't have necessary privileges to carry out an apt-get update or apt-get install. For executing those types of commands, we need elevated privileges, and generally the easiest way to do that on the Linux platform is to use sudo. So the recommended approach for this to work is that we need to configure our remote user in such a way that it can execute sudo -i. And once configured like so, our Ansible task should be able to elevate its privileges without asking for any passwords. Since we have deployed these instances in the AWS cloud, and we are using the standard AWS AMI, it should already be set up for us that way. The default Ubuntu user in the AWS AMI already has elevated privileges. But if we were using a local machine or some other Linux distributions, then we may have to configure this manually. You can do that by modifying the sudo file. Go inside the sudo file and enable passwordless sudo access for the particular user you are using in your Ansible commands. Now obviously you need to be aware of the security implications of allowing an underprivileged user to be able to elevate his or her access level. So before you do that on all production servers, please consult a security expert or your network administrator. Anyway, here we are just going to use become true as our systems are already set up for this access. Let's save this playbook and quit the VI editor.